I'm Kate.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Sonya.
And today we are dishing from Recess Tapas Lounge at 727 15th Street.
It's just steps from the White House, and it's tapas with a Peruvian accent. That's not a Peruvian accent, but it's great food.
Actually, most of the things we have on the table today are seafood. We have an incredible looking scallop. Look at that presentation.
Yeah.
The lomo saltado is actually, that's our Peruvian steak with French fries and potatoes. And oh, doesn't that look good? Look at this seafood salad made with the mussels and our camarones al coco, which is coconut shrimp, but doesn't it sound much better when we say it all Peruvian like that?
And we have a wonderful new addition to the dishing chairs. We have a new host. Allison Brooks is here with us, and she will be with us all the time. Welcome.
I am thrilled. Thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you so much, Kate.
And let's start dishing.
And our guest today is Robert Egger. He is the president of DC Central Kitchen, Campus Kitchen Project, and See Forward. I just saw one of your trucks this morning, and there were 4 or 5 logos on it, so you have a lot that you're working on in the city to feed the city. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, man, no moss on this man. You know, it's like I'll sleep when I'm dead. There's a lot of work to be done.
That's right.
And we like to turn over every possible stone to not only empower the organization, but empower people. You know, we employ a lot of our own graduates, and that's a lot of what our new businesses allow us to do.
Let's start at the ground level of what you actually do.
Yeah,
I mean, it's real simple.
DC Central Kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, the idea, it was born, I went out one night to serve the poor on Washington, D.C. streets in the 80s, and I didn't want to go. I'm a recovering hypocrite. You know, I talked a good game, but when somebody asked me to go out, it was like, no thanks. But I went out, and not only was the reality of homeless kind of revealed to me, but I saw the food we were serving, and I kept thinking, man, that looks nice, but I work in an industry. I worked in nightclubs all my life. That was my big career. And I knew we threw away food, but I also knew we had jobs. So I just put the two together and proposed this idea that was like a FedEx for food. And that's what we've been doing every day for 24 years, is bringing food, restaurants, hotels, hospitals, universities to a central hub where we produce 5,000 meals every day while we teach unemployed men and women, people out of prison, out of drug treatment programs, basic cooking, who working alongside with volunteers. We produce, again, 5,000 meals a day, every day of the week.
Now that's my favorite part, because although you're feeding people, and I'm sure that everyone thinks that that's really important, the thing I think is the most important is that you're giving them a job skill that they can then take and have a career have a life interest and a passion about. So how many people do you think have gone through this? Classes and all of this with you.
Well, today's a big day, man. I welcomed class 90 this morning.
90?
How many people in a class?
About 25 per class. And what's great about that is every year the 80 men and women who averagely graduate from the kitchen, they're going to earn $2 million in new salaries, pay $225,000 in DC payroll taxes, versus going back to prison and costing us collectively $45 per to sit up. So the kitchen is about empowerment. With all due respect, charity is about the redemption of the giver, not the liberation of the receiver. And I just wanted to flip it around a little bit so that everybody wins, everybody's liberated. And so that's what I think a great nonprofit does, is it doesn't get lost trying to fix the problem. I think some of these things are too big. But if we can reveal powerful truths, and in this case, look at what we throw away. We throw away all this food, we throw away these people. Come on, look there's gold at our feet. Quit looking up, look down, and you'll be amazed what you see.
So is the kind of food that you're able to serve to the homeless, is it like if you're at a large, buffet, and then at the end of the night you see just trays of beautiful risotto and things like that, and you're like, what happens to that? It happens. Right. Wow.
So we bring in about 2 tons of food every day. Now the business has shifted. I mean, it's been 24 years, and the era of roast beef and shrimp and keep it coming at the caterers has passed. Mm-hmm. So we've had to adapt. So for example, we now buy a lot of food from Mennonite farmers down in Shenandoah. Oh. So in effect, oftentimes when you go to the grocery store, the only produce you see is cosmetically perfect. So what happens to all that stuff that isn't beautiful or is maybe a little bit crooked or whatever? We buy that from farmers for 5 cents on the buck. They're thrilled, but that allows us to operate Fresh Start Catering, which is a revenue-generating catering service. So, for example, one of the most interesting experiments that our current CEO, Mike Curtin, took to a whole new level for us is we do school food in the District of Columbia. So we do locally sourced, cooked from scratch meals for 10 DC public or private schools, which is probably one of the most interesting experiments going on in food service in America.
How is that going? Because I've heard there's a lot of movement right now where the kids are revolting against, the healthy foods in schools. What are you finding in these 10 schools?
No, actually, you would be shocked. We are shocked. The teachers are shocked. What we found is that actually if you engage kids in the process, and what's fun about it is, we have a lot of the men and women who graduated from our job training program whose records don't limit their ability to work in a school. What so many of those men and women find is this amazing relationship that they're going to neighborhoods that I think I'm pretty much quoting, that men and women used to destroy in their previous life, and now they feel like they're going in there to help rebuild. So the relationship, instead of just a kind of blank cafeteria worker serving food, these are men and women who really actively engage the young students. So it's a very different formula. And that's kind of what we do, is we experiment with different formulas, whether it's the role of aging older people in our process. Again, the relationship that nonprofits should have with the community. Like I said, we've never been into, poor people in DC, give us money so we can feed the poor. Our attitude is like, man, this city's rich. This is a great city. We have a great heritage. Let's take it to another level and expose the real power of our community if we work together.
So you talk about experimenting and seeing what works. Is that part of what this new See Forward initiative is about?
Well, I tell you, the kitchen is pretty bold. We do things hardcore every day, yet when politicians come, they literally pat us on the head and say, man, you're a great charity. And it's like, great charity, man. Hello, we got 140 people on the payroll. We added 40 jobs last year. The men and women graduating our program are paying serious money. We're a business, and we're pretty badass business. Come on, get with the program and recognize that organizations like the kitchen, we're the new norm. There's a generation, I always say this, there's 90 million people under 25 in America raised doing service. And they're roaring out of universities armed with these and a heart full of love. And they're not interested in charity. They want the way they spend their money to be philanthropy. So the See Forward is a political action committee saying to the men and women who work, the 10 million people who work at a nonprofit, hey man, come on, let's work together and help elect people who understand our role in the economy. That what we do is cool, but what we do is good business too.
And then what about the industries here in Washington, the restaurants? How have they really supported the larger initiative? I mean, you have great teaching programs, but how are they really on the bandwagon with you?
Oh, this is day one. I mean, hospitality people, that's the business I came up in. They're the best people in the world. I mean, honestly.
Hospitality's in their name, after all, right?
I tell you, no, I mean, and it's funny, people ask how I went from one of nightclubs to doing this. I'm in service. Service people, this is kind of what we do. Service people, hate to throw away food. They just didn't want to be sued. As long as I could, when we came along, as long as I could say, look, here's a professional environment, they were like, take it. But they were also really excited about employing, too, because restaurant people are looking for men and women who can show up on time, have good knife skills, work as a team. They're thrilled when they don't have to go through the want ads.
What did you say? Good what skills?
Knife skills.
Nice. Is it like the chopping? And you teach that in your courses?
Not only do the men and women in our class learn that, but the people who come in to volunteer learn that also. And a classic example is Bill Clinton. The Clintons and the Obamas have both come to the kitchen on many occasions. And it's a classic example of, instead of the old model where the president would come and serve the poor at Thanksgiving, we say, no, sir, come around and you're on the same side. Because whether somebody's up in the shelter or somebody's in the White House, we all live in D.C.
Right.
Let's take care of the city together. But as intelligent as Bill Clinton was, and as much as he liked food, he didn't know what to do in the kitchen. And it was up to someone just a few weeks into a job training program to say, in fact, no, Mr. President, you do it this way.
Great.
And that's what we do, is we just reveal that everybody's got a skill, everybody's got something to contribute. In some situation, the president's the smartest person in the room, and sometimes it's the person 2 days
His
into a
life
job training
skills,
program.
not so much. So, okay, so I have a crazy question for you.
Yeah.
Democrat, Republican, who's got the better knife skills?
Well, I got to tell you, one of the best people I've seen coming in years, and I've seen a lot of people come in, Secretary of Agriculture Vilsack has tremendous knife skills. I'm actually really impressed. Secretary Glickman, who was a former Secretary of Agriculture, had really good cake decorating skills.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, who knew?
Hidden
Who
talent.
knew?
And so we're not just, we're giving them dessert too. I love it. Well, we only have a limited amount of time. So sadly, our time is almost up.
That's
And I got to
okay.
say, kitchens are always where we say we gather.
Right.
So we're really gathering, the community's gathering in this kitchen, I guess. What can you give us just one last, one of your favorite stories or something not necessarily political, but something great that's happened this week in the kitchen?
Well, again, there's so many people who I've encountered, and there's this one guy, Bo, who I really like, and Bo used to have a giant set of keys, and I mock him sometimes. And he stopped and said, you know what, actually, these keys are really important to me because there was a time in my life when nobody trusted me with a key. And these keys represent trust. And sometimes I've been doing this many years, and sometimes you just swallow and you're like, I never even thought of that. And that's the joy of the kitchen, is amazing things are revealed every day.
Well, that's a perfect metaphor because you're really giving these people a key to a successful life and the tools. You teach a man to fish, he can feed a whole village.
Right.
And nourishing them, mind, heart, body, and soul.
Life
Thanks
is
so
good.
much for being with
Yeah,
us.
A great
thanks,
pleasure.
Robert.
Thank you.
As always, thank you for being with us. Remember to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Be part of the conversation, and we'll see you next time.